Do you ever feel like you are constantly in motion, but never getting anywhere? Have you ever felt both overworked and underutilized? Do you ever feel busy but not productive? If you answered yes to any of these, the way out is becoming an essentialist. Hello everyone. This is yet another interesting video about essentialist from Power of Books. I do believe in leaders create future leaders. Essentialism, written by Greg McKeown, one of best books to read for anyone who wants to regain control of their health, well-being and happiness, and also helps us to focus on our choices so we can make the highest possible contribution towards the things that really matter. We will discuss about overall idea of being an essentialist in this video, which is chapter 1. The wisdom of life consists in the elimination of non-essentials by Lin Yutong. Sam Elliott is a capable executive in Silicon Valley who found himself stretched too thin after his company was acquired by a larger, bureaucratic business. He was in earnest about being a good citizen in his new role, so he said yes to many requests without really thinking about it. But as a result, he would spend the whole day rushing from one meeting and conference call to another, trying to please everyone and get it all done. His stress went up as the quality of his work went down. It was like he was majoring in minor activities, and as a result, his work became unsatisfying for him and frustrating for the people he was trying so hard to please. In the midst of his frustration, the company came to him and offered him an early retirement package. But he was in his early 50s and had no interest in completely retiring. He thought briefly about starting a consulting company doing what he was already doing. He even thought of selling his services back to his employer as a consultant. But none of these options seemed that appealing. So, he went to speak with a mentor who gave him surprising advice: stay, but do what you would as a consultant and nothing else. And don't tell anyone. In other words, his mentor was advising him to do only those things that he deemed essential, and ignore everything else that was asked of him. The executive followed the advice. He made a daily commitment towards cutting out the red tape. He began saying no. He was tentative at first. Now, when a request would come in, he would pause and evaluate the request against a tougher criteria. Is this the very most important thing I should be doing with my time and resources right now? If he couldn't answer a definitive yes, then he would refuse the request. He used to be one of the first to jump in on an email trail, but now he just stepped back and let others jump in. He stopped attending conference calls that he only had a couple of minutes of interest in. He stopped sitting in on the weekly update call because he didn't need the information. He stopped attending meetings on his calendar if he didn't have a direct contribution to make. It felt self-indulgent at first. But by being selective, he bought himself space, and in that space, he found creative freedom. He could concentrate his efforts on one project at a time. He could plan thoroughly. He could anticipate roadblocks and start to remove obstacles. Instead of spinning his wheels trying to get everything done, he could get the right things done. His newfound commitment to doing only the things that were truly important and eliminating everything else restored the quality of his work. Instead of making just a millimeter of progress in a million directions, he began to generate tremendous momentum towards accomplishing the things that were truly vital. He continued this for several months. He immediately found that he not only got more of his day back at work, in the evenings he got even more time back at home. He said, "I got back my family life. I can go home at a decent time." Now, instead of being a slave to his phone, he shuts it down. He goes to the gym. He goes out to eat with his wife. To his great surprise, there were no negative repercussions to his experiment. His manager didn't chastise him. His colleagues didn't resent him. Quite the opposite, because he was left only with projects that were meaningful to him and actually valuable to the company. They began to respect and value his work more than ever. His work became fulfilling again. His performance ratings went up. He ended up with one of the largest bonuses of his career. What about you? How many times have you reacted to a request by saying yes without really thinking about it? How many times have you resented committing to do something and wondered, why did I sign up for this? How often do you say yes simply to please? Or to avoid trouble? Or because yes had just become your default response? Now let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself stretched too thin? Have you ever felt both overworked and underutilized? Have you ever found yourself majoring in minor activities? Do you ever feel busy but not productive? Like you're always in motion, but never getting anywhere? If you answered yes to any of these, the way out is the way of the essentialist. The Way of the Essentialist. Dieter Rams was the lead designer at Braun for many years. He is driven by the idea that almost everything is noise. He believes very few things are essential. His job is to filter through that noise until he gets to the essence. For example, as a young 24-year-old at the company, he was asked to collaborate on a record player. The norm at the time was to cover the turntable in a solid wooden lid or even to incorporate the player into a piece of living room furniture. Instead, he and his team removed the clutter and designed a player with a clear plastic cover on the top and nothing more. It was the first time such a design had been used, and it was so revolutionary people worried it might bankrupt the company because nobody would buy it. It took courage, as it always does, to eliminate the non-essential. By the 60s this aesthetic started to gain traction. In time it became the design every other record player followed. The way of the essentialist is the relentless pursuit of less but better. It doesn't mean occasionally giving a nod to the principle. It means pursuing it in a disciplined way. Essentialism is not about how to get more things done, it's about how to get the right things done. It doesn't mean just doing less for the sake of less either. It is about making the wisest possible investment of your time and energy in order to operate at our highest point of contribution by doing only what is essential. The model. Non-essentialist thinks all things to all people, whereas essentialist thinks less but better. Non-essentialist does the undisciplined pursuit of more, whereas essentialist does the disciplined pursuit of less. Non-essentialist lives a life that does not satisfy, whereas essentialist lives a life that really matters. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. Once an Australian nurse named Bronnie Ware, who cared for people in the last 12 weeks of their lives, recorded their most often discussed regrets. At the top of the list, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This requires, not just haphazardly saying no, but purposefully, deliberately, and strategically eliminating the non-essentials, and not just getting rid of the obvious time wasters, but cutting out some really good opportunities as well. Instead of reacting to the social pressures pulling you to go in a million directions, you will learn a way to reduce, simplify, and focus on what is absolutely essential by eliminating everything else. Here's how an essentialist would approach that closet. Explore and evaluate. Instead of asking, "Is there a chance I will wear this someday in the future?" you ask more disciplined, tough questions. Do I love this? And do I look great in it? And do I wear this often? If the answer is no, then you know it is a candidate for elimination. Eliminate. Let's say you have your clothes divided into piles of must keep and probably should get rid of. If you're not quite there, ask the killer question. If I didn't already own this, how much would I spend to buy it? This usually does the trick. Execute. If you want your closet to stay tidy, you need a regular routine for organizing it. You need one large bag for items you need to throw away and a very small pile for items you want to keep. You need to know the drop-off location and hours of your local thrift store. You need to have a scheduled time to go there. Essentialism is about creating a system for handling the closet of our lives. This is not a process you undertake once a year, once a month, or even once a week, like organizing your closet. It is a discipline you apply each and every time you are faced with a decision about whether to say yes or whether to politely decline. This book will show you how to live a life true to yourself, not the life others expect from you. It will teach you a method for being more efficient, productive, and effective in both personal and professional realms. In short, it will teach you how to apply the disciplined pursuit of less to every area of your life. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe this YouTube channel for more informative videos in the future.